Thanks, Cliff. Wow, can you guys believe it's over? It has been a very, very quick 16 months, that's for sure. It feels a little strange up here not asking for money from you in some form or fashion, for beer or for a class gift. However, I am taking donations to pay off my student loans, so I'll be passing, Kelly, if you can pass the whole bowl around, it'd be great. It is an honor to be up here as your valedictorian. Didn't expect that big of a laugh. But no, it was, there was a lot of competition. I mean, between Bushman, Francis, myself, and several others. I was able to squeak out just a couple more LPs than them. Well, let me back up. For those of you who don't understand the grading system, I'll explain that, as I've explained to my wife many times through the program every time grades come out. LP is the highest you can get. That stands for lots of potential. Followed by PS, which stands for pretty smart. HP is hopeful. DS is crude, it's a dumb student, I didn't write it. And then NC is no chance. But obviously there was a tremendous amount of competition from the grades perspective, and that's really become, we had such diversity within the backgrounds of the students. We had people representing IT healthcare. We had people representing healthcare sales. We had people in the healthcare industry, such as doctors. And it was, the competition for the grades was not only the really important competitions that went on. There was a lot of over-under betting that went on in class, and most of these are fictitious. I made up, some of them are real, but we'll talk about some of the over-unders. Over-under. The number of times Mike Coffey falls out of his chair per term. Over-under. The number of times George Kassendikes walks directly in front of the professor while they're teaching to find a seat. Over-under. The number of times the Dinesh shows up to class per term. Over-under. The number of minutes Ted Lai consistently stays in class. Over-under. The number of times Hans repeats exactly what the professor wrote on the board 2 minutes later. Over-under. The number of minutes consistently David Ramey stays awake. And finally, over-under the number of purple and pink shirts Scott Smith owns. I can give you the odds after, if you guys want to play with that. But obviously, the program is absolutely fantastic, and the program would not be the same without the faculty. Absolutely amazing. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and pay tribute to some of those individuals, and by pay tribute, I mean make fun of. I only have enough time to do one per term, so we'll start with Dr. Rob Kazanjian. Just kidding, I'm extremely scared of you. Probably the second or third class in, you actually cold called on Chris Riley, and he's now just beginning to speak again. Godspeed, Chris, you know you're going to get there. In seriousness, though, term one, Steve Stuck. After class, there was a good number of us that got together and ran some pretty sophisticated regression analysis equations. We did some decision trees, and still cannot figure out how we received the grades you gave us. So, I'd love to see, I'd really see that equation, because I think it was passed around to other professors as well. But term two, Rich Meadows. Is Rich Meadows here? I didn't think so. Every time we had beer around, we would typically go out and we would get a keg of beer, and then have people would have drinks afterwards. Rich Meadows would always appear in the corner with a beer in his hand. We never got there. Even first time before we met him, he was there. So we've done some calculations. He owes us approximately $60 to $80. And I've left messages at his house. Obviously explains why he's not here. Third term, Jeff Rosenzweig. Fantastic class, fantastic professor. I'm going to throw this out there just in case the teaching thing doesn't work out, and it's a big effort. Just in case it doesn't work out, if you're able to put on a little bit more mass, you have a future in bodybuilding with the GNP, the posing. So give me a call. Fourth term, JB Koresh, is he here? Okay, well, I remember in the fourth term, you had said for me to call my mom if I had some questions in one of our cohorts. Well, she's here and she would like to talk to you afterwards. But in all seriousness, though, the class gift committee got together and we talked about what we could do, and we thought the best gift for you would probably be a Barco lounger, because when you really relaxed on some of those chairs and kicked back, you thought you were going to bite it a couple times, so we're going to get one that fully reclines for you. So, now in all seriousness, the faculty here is fantastic. Let's give them a quick round. I want to switch topics for a second, and it's funny that Cliff and Larry had some similar strengths. We didn't talk about this, but I want to talk about greatness, true greatness. For a second, if you can think of someone in your mind who's truly great, just picture that individual for a second. Typically, that individual has characteristics of extremely strong character, high integrity, and is extremely selfless. Now, I want you to continue to think about the definition of true greatness as I go through some of my following comments. Most times in our life, we strive to be great at something. And already, going into this program, we are great at certain things. Leaving it, we're better at certain things. Great at finance, great at being a president or CEO, great at being an IT help desk analyst. But there's a large difference between being great at something and being truly great. Being great at something, you typically have to work and strive very hard for, sometimes to God-given ability. To be truly great, with those definitions, it's a choice. It's a conscious choice. And we miss the opportunities on a daily basis to be truly great. And the problem is, the most direct path, most times, to our goals, our successes, our visions, the most direct path, most times, is not necessarily the most ethical one. And what's even harder than that is once we reach that pinnacle of success, once we get to the top of the mountain, which I know if we're not already there, we all will be there, to maintain that success is extremely hard. And the most direct path, a lot of times, to maintaining that success isn't necessarily the most ethical one. And the problem is success is intoxicating. We've all felt it. Once we achieve those goals, it's a fantastic feeling. But the problem is the rules tend to shift a little bit once we reach it. The rules shift. When we were at the bottom looking out, we thought, when some of those decisions are made that I don't agree with, I would handle it differently. It's a little bit unethical. And then when we get there, the rules tend to shift. You think, I understand why some of these decisions are being made. It makes a little bit more sense. We will be, and we probably have been, tempted to compromise our morals, our characters, and our integrity. But we've got to cling to what is right. It is of the utmost importance that we cling to what is right. Being great at something is short-term. Being a great CFO, being a great CEO is short-term. Being truly great builds legacies. And we owe it to each other, because I'll tell you, the world will not hold us to this type of standard. The world does not recognize or reward this type of true greatness. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our families, we owe it to the family that we created here to be great. I'm going to switch for a second to what I think snippets from one of my favorite books. It's Managerial Leadership by Peter Chapman. I'm just kidding. I'm sure the book was fantastic. This book, I think, kind of sums up the talk we had about greatness as well as success of finishing as a team. This is Poured Hard Into It by Howard Schultz. It's a couple different snippets that I pieced together. Success should not be measured in dollars. It's about how you conduct the journey and how big your heart is at the end of it. Business can teach us a lot about what people can achieve when they work together. One person can only do so much. But if he gathers a company of people around him who are committed to the same goals, if he galvanizes them and inspires them and taps into their inner drive, they can perform miracles together. It takes courage. A lot of people will try to tell you it's impractical or impossible. They'll tell you to lower your sights. They'll tell you business can be benevolent. But please remember, you'll be left with an empty feeling when you hit the finish line alone. When you run a race as a team, though, you discover that much of the reward comes from hitting the tape together. You'll want to surround yourself not just by cheering onlookers, but by a crowd of winners celebrating as one. Victory is much more meaningful when it comes not just from the effort of one person, but from the joint achievements of many. The euphoria is lasting when all participants leave with their hearts winning not just for themselves, but for one another. Success is sweetest when it's shared. And my friends, I honestly have no idea how this success could be any sweeter than finishing with you guys. It has been my honor, my privilege to get to know you. I look forward to following your careers. I know you're going to be absolutely fantastic. Please, let's be great together. Thank you.